a day, my beautiful co-creator. How exciting. I mean, since I reset my vibration, it's just there's an amazing flow of things coming in my life that are absolutely aligned with my heart and mission. And I'm so thankful. So grateful. And one of the awesome things I'm about to share with you in this video is that I had a coaching session with Freeman this morning after interviewing Ram Giri. Now, Ram Giri, just first of all, is I found him on the internet on YouTube. He has this open heart meditation I absolutely loved, and I had to interview him, which I had today. And I've uploaded the interview with him that is absolutely amazing. And then after that, there is a meditation in itself that I've posted separately. Don't miss that. Really, really heart opening, amazing, fulfilling, juicy. Then I had a coaching session with Freeman Michael, that is a weight release coach, and I had just expressed a few weeks ago or this last week that I've been wanting to release some of the weight. I really liked his approach, and I just did a coaching session, which is a very intimate moment, and I'm sharing this with you for the people, for you, if you want, to see it. It is really, a vulnerable place, but a place that I want to open that up, and hopefully this could be beneficial to you or to a friend. And I'm very, very grateful to have seen what I've seen in this session, and look forward to next one, and I'll probably share that one too. But and then I had awesome time meeting Eric. He's a reflexologist here in Chicago, and but beyond that, he's got so much healing and so much um, to give to the world, and I feel so blessed to have met him at the yoga house opening night the other day, and opening day the other night, and I'm gonna share with you. I'm gonna interview him because he's just like gorgeous, and about what is reflexology, but also his whole story through Japan and how he came to Chicago with $750 in his pocket and was just guided, and now he has this practice here down the road. So there's just all those amazing people that I'm bumping into and that I want to share, the story, and I'm just continuing to do those video blogs. I'm continuing to do those interviews. This is what the Juicy Living Tour is all about, and right now I'm doing this through the internet, and I feel that the universe is totally supporting and bringing all those wonderful people in my life, including Michael Lozier last week, to all of that, just to open up, and I'm receiving and making those shifts, and just opening fully to my mission. And it was just so funny, that little detail, just before I post this coaching session, which is long. I think it's 45 minutes. I was going to get some cash at the bank, and Eric had just told me, because he has like those messages directly connected, and he's like, your mission is so much bigger than Oprah. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you have like this spiritual healing and vibration that is higher, and there's just an amazing journey ahead of you and what you have already done. And well, he said that, and then I was at Chase, and getting some cash, and right there, when I'm getting out, and a person comes in that looks like Oprah, but like Oprah in 20-30 years. And I was like, I got it. Like, she really looked, and I had to really look. I'm like, is that Oprah? And it was like an Oprah, but an Oprah with no money. So an Oprah kind of run down with another 30 years. And I was just like, of course. I mean, I'm a new generation. I have a total different style. I'm on the web. There is a whole platform. And I really feel that since I moved to Chicago, there's been so much release regarding that relationship and that mentorship, and how I was seeing her and being attached to working for her or get noticed, and now all this is released until this point where I just really got it, like on a cellular level and everything. It was just a reaffirmation, and it was just so it's hard to explain. I hope this makes sense to you, but it was just like, Okay, Oprah. Anyway, here is my session. Not as glamorous, pretty intimate and vulnerable, but this is part of digging into the journey. And I really appreciated my coaching session with Freeman. So here it is right now. Much love. Mwah!
Your intention is to discover more about these weight issues, where they come from, and the intention is to be free in terms of your relationship with food and your relationship with your body. That's sort of where we started. And I want to pick up there because the what you are freeing yourself from is going to be very important. So let's just start with, what would you characterize as the burden that you carry in relationship to food and or your body and or exercise? What's the burden that you'd like to release?
The burden is the controlling and the fact that I'm not in control in those situations. Like food seems to lead the way. I'm out of control. And then regarding my body, there is no full self-acceptance of how I look or where I am, whether I'm 20 pounds lighter or heavier, and just the more that I have weight, then the more I'm hurtful and harming and negative. I do not like that negative self-talk to get then out of to then motivate myself in a hard way to lose that weight.
Okay, so that's really important. We're going to back up for just a sec. So part of what has motivated you in the past to quote-unquote lose weight is a negative voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Beating myself up, like, what are you freaking doing?
Right. Well, and I'm, we've talked a little about this, that you can't shame yourself into loving yourself. You actually have to shift the paradigm to self-acceptance. And actually the piece that we're going to explore today is what is actually driving the behavior, but actually also, very important, what's driving the thinking? Mm-hmm. In other words, what are some of the voices? And they may be historic. I mean, it's really okay to look at the sort of root places where a lot of these notions were born, because they're born in childhood. There's lots of ways in which this is stuff we heard, we bought into. For women, there's a lot of body issues that they got messages that they were lovable if they were thin, if they were polite, if they were, and there's a whole litany of those things.
And there's two things I can think of right now. One is my mom, and two is the divorce of my parents.
Ah, yes. Okay. All right, so let's just put this in context for a minute, because I think this will help too. As you track your emotional history, recognize it's not the event that is important. The event is not what's important. What is important is your interpretation of the event. And oftentimes, the interpretation is locked in an age. So tell me quickly, how old were you when your parents got divorced?
I was about 12.
Okay. So realize on a sensory level, there is trauma locked in a 12-year-old perception. So the 12-year-old who experiences some deeply held traumatic experience and interprets that, ever since 12, you've been explaining, justifying, and supporting an interpretation. And see, so that, in fact, is what we are ultimately coming to terms with. That, in fact, is where the release happens, because what we have the opportunity to do in the work that you and I are going to do is to reinterpret the 12-year-old experience. And from that perspective, you will be able to observe when that interpretation creeps into your life. And I'll illustrate this a little bit. So when I was about that age, I wet my bed till I was 11 or 12, which I have to tell you is one of those defining things for me in terms of my sense of self-worth. I really believed something was wrong with me. I really believed that people weren't going to like me if they knew this truth about me. And it's interesting because that 11, 12-year-old boy, it's almost like I have a sense memory, a sensation come up in me. It's this, it's this dread feeling like someone's going to find out I'm a bedwetter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You don't have to know precisely. So all I'm telling you this for is that as we start to understand what 12-year-old Lilou, how she was making sense of the world and the stories she created, that is probably linked to at least sensations that come up for you around, and they may be directly related to food.
Yeah.
So just hold that loosely. That's a bit of thinking, and we have to get it from thinking down into your body where you actually recognize it. But the reason I want you to understand it cognitively is so that as you're going along in the next week or so before we meet again, you may have an experience of a sensation and realize it's connected to a misinterpretation. So I'm going to tell you another piece of the puzzle.
One would be
Go ahead.
that not being good enough. Like my parents divorced, I'm an only child, and I felt like abandoned and totally left alone, no explanation, and I took it personally. I really
Right.
thought that I did something wrong, and
Right.
I thought I'm not good enough.
Great. So we're going to jump ahead because you're going to move fast with this. How do you want to be with 12-year-old Lilou? She's still in you. She still comes out in the world. She operates actually as an insecurity.
Well,
Your
I wish I could
experience.
say compassionate. I would like to be compassionate with her, but I'm saying that, but I
No,
know
that's
it's not going to
perfect.
happen more than 5 minutes.
No, stop. Time out.
Ah!
Okay. This is not result-driven thinking. This is not a process that is result-driven. It's process-driven. So you can't fail at it. That's the first thing. And all we do is lead with intent. So the intent is to be compassionate with 12-year-old Lilou. That's all we've got for right now. In a given day, there may be, let's say, 10 opportunities. I don't know if that's the number, but I'm just making up a number. Let's just say 10 opportunities to offer compassion for that hypercritical, insecure little girl that comes up in you. 10 opportunities. And maybe twice you have the consciousness to say, oh, I'm being insecure. I know what this is about, and offer compassion for yourself. Only twice. That's a success because it's 2 more times than you did the day before. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's a box. And you have a box that you live in. We all do. And it's your persona. It's your sense of self as you've defined it. It's all these experiences. It's all comprised to be this box. And we live in these boxes. And people say that you should think outside the box. I always say it's very dangerous to think outside the box. What you want to do is actually expand the box to allow for expanded thinking. You don't want to think outside the box. We have to work from where we actually are. Because to skip steps means we miss a critical part of the process. So let's just frame this for just a second. In the past, is it safe to say you have rejected, denied, and judged the 12-year-old part of you?
Yeah.
Great. So now the intention is simply to be compassionate and loving with the 12-year-old side of you. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I want you to say it now. My intention is to be loving and compassionate with the 12-year-old Lilou.
My intention.
The 12-year-old little. Go ahead.
My intention is to be compassionate with a 12-year-old Lilou.
Yeah. How do we want to? Was there at 12? Was there a nickname? Is there some benchmark we can kind of name her? Did friends call you Lee? Did they call you anything other than Lilou?
Well,
is there
actually,
any way that we?
Lilou is it's funny that you say that, but Lilou is a nickname. So it's not my French name is Aurélie. Aurelie. And
all right, we're gonna have to go slow because my French is not very good. Aurelie.
Aurelie.
Got it.
So that's
and
Aurélie
pronounce
and Aurélie.
Aurélie. Ore.
well, that's one of the reasons why I switched that during university. It became Lili and then Lilou because it was hard for people to say. I studied in England and it was hard for them to say that, and it sounded. Yeah. So Aurélie is part of the person I haven't accepted. Lilou is fine, kind of thing.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Okay, I'm so thrilled I asked that. Good intuition. Okay,
Yeah,
so
very good.
Aurélie is who we want to talk to. Fantastic. Now I'm going to offer you a piece. And if I've said this before, forgive me. But if I say it 20 times, it's not enough. We heal when we apply compassion and love to any part inside of us that hurts. That is what healing is. So, in fact, your intention to offer compassion and love to Aurélie is, in fact, your healing journey.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm.
Yeah, great. Okay,
Right on.
fantastic. Let's talk for a minute about this. I want to give you. What happened?
I'm laughing. No, I'm laughing because this is so right on.
Good, I'm thrilled. Real quickly, I'm going to do a little inventory because I want to get to know this aspect of you. This is so real quickly, just so you understand the premise. Compassion allows us to see clearly. Judgment, and I mean being judgmental, and I said this before when I talked to you, it narrows our perception. It's a distorted perception of reality. We don't see clearly whenever we're in a state of that defensive thinking, right? We can't see everything because, neurologically, we've gone into the fight or flight mechanism. We're in that amygdala, right? We're closing down, and we have to very quickly put everything in its place so that we're safe. So when you are in a state of defensiveness, you aren't seeing the whole picture. And so three things: shame, blame, and guilt are all misinterpretations of reality. I'm going to say that again because I need you to hear that. Shame, blame, and guilt are all misinterpretations of reality. Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a little laundry list with you. And I just want you to answer without thinking about this very much. Don't negotiate with any part of you. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low, like that doesn't come up for me. 10 being, yeah, that comes up for me a lot, okay? I'm just going to ask you a bunch of prompts, and I want you to give me a number value to what degree do you believe this statement is true, okay?
Mm-hmm.
People make me feel ashamed. To what degree don't think about it, just answer. Number? People make me feel ashamed.
7.
Okay.
5 to 7.
Now, we're going to go with your first answer, and just hold on loosely. We can track back and think about it, but I don't want you to think a lot on this one. 2, shame means that I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
The feeling of shame means that I've done something wrong. To what degree do you believe that's true?
8.
In your psyche. 8? Great. Number 3, I am ashamed of overeating or undereating, but I think for you it would probably be overeating. I'm ashamed of my overeating.
8.
Yeah. I am ashamed of my weight and my body.
9.
Okay. People make me feel guilty.
6.
Feeling guilty means I've done something wrong.
Yeah, 10.
I should feel guilty for the bad things I have done.
Yeah, 9, 8.
You said 9 or 8?
Yeah.
Okay. I should feel guilty about how much I weigh.
I don't even want to weight myself anymore, so I guess the answer is pretty close to 10 here.
Okay, that's okay. You're doing great. This is a lot. I realize that. If I felt guiltier about my weight, I would lose weight or I would eat less. If I felt guilty about my weight, I would eat less.
Right. That's what I thought, but I'm coming out of that. So
But just a number
6.
value in that belief. 6? Okay, great. Um, my parents are to blame for my poor eating habits. Instinctual.
5.
What's your answer? Number 5?
I mean, there's two questions. There's two things in there. There's one, what they
Go.
taught me to eat, and two, what they taught me of myself and how I look. Which is, I mean, I have two very separate answers for that.
Okay.
They gave me
All right, we're
great
good.
eating habits, but not great thinking habits of myself.
Ah, that's good. Good eating habits. Yeah, so it's the whole tell you how, but then the demonstration is something
Yeah, my
different, or
mom put me on
there's
a
mixed
diet at
messages.
13. You know, I wanted to go on a diet at 13. So
Okay, first diet's 13. Actually, one of my usually I give you a sheet that you fill out before you come in. It was when was your first diet, but you just did this. First diet is 13. That's important to know. Okay, so that actually locks a perception and an age again. Again, the perceptions that we need to
actually
heal are
13.
mis.
No, it was sorry, it was 15. Like 14, 15, because it was 15. Yeah, it's 15.
Okay, okay. Let me track back to that. I want to just run through these. Um, Let's see if there's anything in here. I'm curious about this. These may not. I don't know if these are going to register big for you, but let's just see what happens. The stores and/or restaurants are to blame for my unhealthy food choices.
No.
Nope, 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my family / culture is to blame from the unhealthy food I was taught to eat.
No.
Nope. Okay. 13. I'm messed up in the head because of my difficult childhood or traumatic experiences.
Yeah, 8.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. I'm gonna go on a little bit, and I realize this is a ton of information. I'm tracking all this, but we can. This is really important because this is foundational. This helps me
Mm-hmm.
know where we need to track, and I'll help you put some pieces together here in just a minute. Okay. The next piece is when we have these deeply held beliefs, there is collateral pieces of this. So I'm going to run through another 12 questions, and then I promise I'm going to stop with the tough ones. But let's just do this. Same thing, number value, and just listen to what I say and answer instinctually. It's not okay to need help. To what degree do you believe that's true? It's not okay to need help.
It's not okay to need help. Yeah, I don't need help. Like, yeah, 7.
So that's a high one, 7. Okay, great. Um, to what degree does this resonate? I am lazy.
2 or 0.
Great. I'm going to put 0 because it's not applicable. It doesn't. I'm looking for the ones that are triggers. I lack self-control around food. To what degree is that true?
8, 9.
Okay. I am unworthy of love because of my weight or my body.
8,
To what?
9.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to know too about me is that I'm 6 foot tall, and which is very, very tall for France. I'm,
Yeah.
I have it that I have a monstrous big body. I'm not like
Right.
hugely heavy, but it's a whole. You know, it's like big hands, big feet, big body, taller than everybody. People looking at you strangely, all of that. So I just want to add that because, but you know, but anyway.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. No,
But
we're
it,
gonna listen. We're gonna track back to a lot of this stuff. I'm just sort of getting. This is like what we want to do is we want to create a starting point.
yeah.
So I get all these tough questions in, and then we know basically what's fueling a lot of the behavior. But this is how I hash it out. I do it in the form of questions, and then I'll take these number values and I plug them back in, and then I have a little profile, if you
I
will,
see.
of the kinds of messages that are basically running the show. And then we work very consciously to peel back those misinterpretations. And there's a way we do this. But let me run through them quick so I can get done with them. Okay. I am not a valuable human being because I'm fat. To what degree does that resonate?
4.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm getting a very clear picture. It's very interesting. The piece about being tall is very interesting, and that you have large hands and pronounced features and so forth and so on. That's going to be very important as well. If I am pretty, I will get too much attention from men. To what degree is that resonate for you?
6.
6. Okay. Okay. It's not okay to express my feelings. To what degree does that resonate for you? It's not okay to express my feelings.
5.
Okay. I am a weak person. Weak.
3.
Good. I don't perceive you that way at all.
Mm.
I haven't changed by. If I haven't changed by now, I never will. To what degree does that come up for you?
7.
Okay. Nothing ever goes right in my life, at least not for very long. To what degree does that resonate?
2, 3.
Great. And I am too needy.
4.
Okay, interesting. I am just an anxious person. To what degree does that resonate?
6, 4, 6. I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask it this way. I'm too sensitive. To what degree does that resonate?
7.
Okay. Last one. This is a tricky one, and I just throw this in there, but I'm going to ask it just straight, answer it straight. If I am thin or successful, either or, who am I going to betray? If you're thin or successful, who are you going to betray?
I'm thinking myself.
Okay, great. That's actually that's very common. That's very common. And the aspect of yourself that you will betray?
The aspect of myself I will betray if I'm
either thin or successful.
My connection to others or something.
Okay, good. Yes. Okay, yes. Okay, I'll explain.
Yeah, something around that nature. I don't know what it is.
You're in the ballpark, and I'm going to actually give it to you a little bit because it'll help you, I think, is what happens is this. A large part of our sense of self is built out of defense. It's how we learn to get by. It's how we learn for people to like us. It's our personality, our persona. A lot of that's just, even though it may involve aspects of us that have come out in maybe pleasing ways, it's still framed oftentimes from trying to get by in our family of origin, trying to be liked in with friends or in the community or in school or whatever. So we build this sense of self, and you understand this. We have this persona self, personality, and we have this thing we call authentic self. And the authentic self actually includes the personality, allows for it at least, but it has to do with being deeply rooted in very core things, including your needs, including what you like, including your gifts and talents and abilities and authentic expression and all these other things that we want to grow. But what we're battling, the split is what I call it, is if I am authentic, if I really step into my realness, who will I betray? And oftentimes the answer is self, because the self that you constructed may feel like a lie. And it's very hard when we have that split and we want to go to our defenses and we go, but I can't because that's a lie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
This comes up often in social settings where it's like I can't rely on my, I use the expression shtick, my sort of bullshit shtick that I use out in social settings because it doesn't feel authentic to me anymore. And I don't know. And then what it leaves me with is I have to be okay with the part of me that's feeling uncomfortable right now because I developed the shtick in order to defend my sensitivity. And so the idea of embracing it in a particular way feels, and it is, very dangerous. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's track back a little bit. This is brilliant, by the way. You are going to move fast. I mean, I really believe that. The last piece, just in terms of me getting all my information down, I want to run through some needs. What was interesting is your answer to the needy question, it didn't resonate as high, and yet the sensitivity question did resonate as high, and that's very rare but interesting. So it's what it is. It's not something that I'm going to jump to a conclusion on, but it is.
I don't know if I'm needy because I'm an independent person, and as soon as that I feel like, that's when I back off because I don't want to be needy. But I guess I am.
Okay, got
I don't
it.
know. So it's a perception
Yes.
neediness, and I don't know how people
Yes,
perceive
I got
that.
it. I got it. Brilliant. Okay, good. So let's backtrack. So in fact, this idea of needy is something that is not okay for you. It's unacceptable for you to be needy.
Yeah.
Let me go back and just track a little bit. In family of origin, if you were needy, let's go to before age 12. If you were needy, what would happen in your family of origin? That's the question. Go ahead and answer to the best.
I cannot. It's not acceptable.
It's
I'm
not
an
acceptable.
only child, but my parents worked a lot, and I had to figure it out on my own, and yeah,
Okay.
I'm kidding.
No, that's important.
But yeah, it's there's no room for neediness.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm just going to tell you, one of the things we have to do in your life today is make room for your needs so that you have what we call self-honoring ways to get your needs met. And you actually practice, when we call it a self-care practice. It's one of the steps in the process is we develop together your self-care practices, the things that you do to honor and care for your needs. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a big part of it. And one of the things that's going to be interesting too is asking for what you need or want. And I have some sense about when that's going to come up, but we're going to just shove that over to the side for just a minute. Yeah, this may all be a little much to go into the first time. Okay, I'm going to leave a little bit for next trip because the needs fulfillment piece can get a little bit heavy, and we've already covered, I think, a lot of the whole intake process.
I'm ready to dig it.
You're ready to dig in?
Oh, if you want to, that's your...
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so let's talk about how in your life today you get needs met. First question is, how do you get your need for attention or affirmation met? First off, let me ask a question. Is it okay for you to need attention or affirmation? Is it okay for Lilou to need...
I do like attention. Obviously, I'm a web TV host. I like the camera. I'm a Leo. I'm tall. I do like that attention. But when I get too much, I don't like it. Or I sabotage it. Like I cannot be with that. Hence I put on weight, or I go back to what I think I am.
Interesting. Okay. How does now there's two people involved here. We're going to actually define the split. How does Aurélie how does she feel about getting attention or affirmation? What does it look like in her world? How does she get attention or affirmation?
No, Lilou
she doesn't
attention.
Like it.
Aurélie doesn't.
Okay, interesting. Okay, and so how does so let's talk about it. So in your present Lilou experience, how do you fulfill or satisfy your need for attention or affirmation?
Through what I do for a living, through
video
blogging.
And I get... Okay, now is there any other way besides that you get attention and affirmation? Let's say that might be more intimate.
Not really.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let me write this down real quick here.
I'm scared of intimacy.
Yeah, I know. And we'll work with that. If you're intimate, what will happen?
They won't like what they see.
If they really knew you. It's interesting. The voice you just went into was young. How
Mm.
old are you right now when you said that?
Just like probably that 12 or 13, 14.
Okay. If they found out or really got to know you, they wouldn't like what they'd see.
Mm-hmm.
And what would they see?
Um, I mean, phew, well, they will see somebody that is fearful.
Okay.
Um,
Would
but
they see someone that's needy?
that is needy, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is shy.
That is shy. That's really interesting.
I'm so
So
shy, but I know that I overcome that every day through those videos. But I'm a shy person.
and it's possible that the we're talking again about a split where we split from ourselves, and again you've developed a persona or a personality that may be in direct contrast with some very real compensation, we might say,
Yeah.
for an aspect of yourself. Does
Mm-hmm.
that resonate?
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
think in
So
I
so
think in a positive way though, like.
don't all right, let me back you up.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going to tell you again how the split works. The authentic self allows for the persona. You don't have to be different, but we want to negotiate from the place of authenticity, which is some part of you feels very shy, and this persona or personality may be originally a compensation, but clearly there's a wonderful expression of you, and you don't have to give that up.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. You get to it'll change slightly, but usually it becomes a richer experience because what happens is instead of being a split, right, where there's this you can't know this other part of me, this part of you gets integrated and it deepens your connection and your
Totally.
experience. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yes.
What we want to include in everything you do is the entirety of who you are. I'm I'm working with a he's a public person, so I have to be a little careful with how I say this. But I'm working with someone who has to go out in front of large numbers of people and perform, and he is very scared. And what has happened is, and we just worked last night, kind of an impromptu thing because he has an event with 30,000 people that he's going to go
Whoa.
in front of, right? And he was calling me for essentially a pep talk, because I coach him, and so I said, okay, that's fine. He emailed me, and I called him immediately, and what basically we talked about was how was he going to be with the part of him that was scared on this day that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's this Sunday. It's a very big event. And how's he going to be with this part of him that's scared? And see, that's the work. And what happens is, and I know this from my personal experience, when I'm okay with the part of me that's scared and I acknowledge it, then it's not running the show anymore. And I'm free in a particular way to have the expression. There's two parts. How do I want to be with the part of me that's scared? And what actually is the quality of the experience I'm going for? That's authentic. That's an expression of me. And when I hold those two things in my consciousness, I just call it holding them in our consciousness, which, by the way, can really just be writing them down and reading them and reminding ourselves 2 minutes before we go out there, as it were, right? So that's a really beautiful and sacred relationship with yourself. And so and it's so funny because this is a guy who you'd never think was doing the process with me because it's not his public persona. Like he really doesn't, like you'd think like the last thing in the world this guy would ever be doing is a coaching process rooted in
Mm-hmm.
spiritual psychology. It would never ever. It's kind of a funny, wonderful thing. But my point is simply to say this to you:
Mm-hmm.
is that look, the part of you that's found this wonderful expression, you don't have to give this up. We can integrate you being scared in a very real way and you being shy in a very real way that is authentic. I promise you that.
Yeah, because the challenge too that I have is because of this, the my channel and also the reach is that people recognize me, And then I feel I have this, I'm not, I have a challenge with that because I see that they see me as whatever they see online, that is a snapshot of my life. And even if I share my life intimately with them, some aspects I do that, I really feel like there's way too much of an image, and I just like I feel so awkward. I'm sure they feel awkward. It's really different from who I am on a day-to-day basis. I wish I could just be myself with them in that moment. But it's
Great.
like, oh my God, they see me as, this Lilou that is always, and even though if I say I'm not always, positive and up there, it's like, whoa, it's that thing is challenging to me.
Okay,
And I
great.
noticed it again this weekend at an event. It's just like, oh, Lilou, oh my God, oh yeah. Oh, and I'm like, whoa, you are.
Yes. Okay, so let's do it. This is so great that I brought that up because the next time this comes up, I want you to practice the conscious, compassionate observer, and I want you to track the experience and how it feels to be you under those circumstances, because that's what we actually need to consciously honor. We call it conscious compartmentalizing. Basically, when you have an experience like that, we want to give you some place to go. We have to have a plan. And I last time I talked to you, I described this as being a little like an emergency worker who shows up to an accident. That how do they ever make good decisions when the roof is falling and the guns are going off, or whatever's going on in the accident or the tragedy or the fire or whatever it is. And in fact, they've practiced. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a safety zone, a place you can go to internally, right?
Cool.
In those moments. So I'm going to put that down on my list, the safety zone, and we'll actually have a plan for those moments in time.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
that.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me track back a little bit. We're going to run out of time too, but it's okay. This is perfect. In fact, let me do this. Well, let's go through some more questions. We'll just get as far as we get, and then we'll end knowing that we're going to return and we're going to work in here. And next time I'll have some pieces of the puzzle that we've laid out that I actually send to you. So I send you an email basically with the items we've discussed so you can see them and be with them. Now, the whole trick is compassionate perspective. If you find yourself feeling triggered, the process is to immediately stop and take care of the part of you that is feeling triggered. Take that part of you, that aspect of you, for a walk, give it a bath, meditate, actually interrupt the pattern, which is to go down that negative path. Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. All right, so let's do another one. How do you, in your present life, satisfy your need for physical nurturing? And this can be anything. This can be hugs, just affection. It can be sex. It can be a whole range of what is physical nurturing. We all need physical. We need to be touched.
Yeah, I'm quite good with that. I mean, from massages to eating healthy foods to sex to hugs, kisses, all of that. Like
Okay.
I'm a touchy, warm person that needs that, and I've been raised with that around. So I'm
Okay,
quite I'm French. I mean, we kiss in the street
I
for crying out
know.
loud.
I know. I know. I won't go into the story, but I love the French.
But
All
when
right.
I said intimacy earlier, I think that's again another different layer where you
It,
really totally intimate, like in the most precious, vulnerable way. That I haven't reached that,
okay.
So it's another level. Even though if I feel like, yeah.
No, that's it. And so we're going to actually separate these out a little bit, and we'll talk about that kind of intimacy. And what we're really talking about is vulnerability, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So where intimacy, where you feel vulnerable, and it just tracks back to this part about if they really knew me, if they really saw me, would they still like me? I mean, that's all woven in there together, So.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working with, is how do you want to be with the part of you that's scared? It's not the fear, and this is one of my sort of issues with a lot of the New Age conversation, is people are talking about fear as if it's something wrong or bad or needs to be overcome, and that's not true. Fear is something that needs to be integrated. And in fact, if we're having an experience of fear that doesn't match up with reality, and we create enough of an observer to realize that's where we go, oftentimes that doesn't help us because all we end up doing is thinking, I shouldn't be scared. Well, the truth is you are. So how do you want to be in relationship with a part of you that's scared, even if it's irrational?
Mm-hmm.
See, so we don't want to deny any part of your experience. We have to work with you and where you're at. Not that you ought to be anywhere else. The minute you go there, it's self-denial, and you've split from yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Total self-acceptance, which includes every part of you. And I love the fact that we've got Aurélie. Let's ask a little bit about her. How did she get her physical needs for affection and nurturing met? Aurélie, now we're talking 12 and earlier. Did she? Was there affection?
Aurélie is really 18, 19 before.
Right. So let's go 18, 19 before. Was she able to get... Now, let's separate here for a minute. We're not going to talk sex. We're only going to talk physical nurturing from a child perspective. So we're talking needs for hugs, needs for back rubs, needs for encouragement in a loving way that she feels nurtured, safe, and protected.
Well, there is one thing that I know and that I'm ready to discuss here, and that's fine, is that comes up. I mean, one is that my mom, definitely... like always massages, and that was part of our thing in rituals in the family. However, what I didn't accept is when I was, in my teenage years or something, my cousin, a woman, with me in a bed, a little bit too intimate she was with me, and that is something I couldn't express, and I didn't accept.
Got it. Okay, this is important. So let me talk about how we can work with this. Again, it's the interpretation of the event that is what's costing you. And it's whether you cut off from it and denied it, whether how you are with the part of you that got confused early around your sexuality, around what that means. That's the part we want to apply compassion to. And so of course, what happens when we have those experiences, we craft a story very quickly to defend or protect the part of us that feels confused and overwhelmed, right? So we want to have a different experience with the part of you that feels confused or overwhelmed. So again, in your adult life, if you meet with a situation where you find yourself going into a defensive posture, now realize this. I'm guessing this is not true for you, but I have quite a few people who have incest or molestation, and what they learn to do is defend themselves with their weight. That's how they actually fended off the unwanted attention. It's incredibly common.
And so also to get attention, because my mom is very petite and always been, really like in short and always like careful with her weight. I'm not saying short in a negative way, just like short, much shorter. Like I'm 181, she's 163. So so I knew that would annoy her, and also I'll get her attention if I put on weight.
Okay. Interesting. That is really important, and I have to write that down. But
at the same time, I don't like that feeling. But that's the only,
So let's talk about this really. I want to make sure you know what we're talking.
Sorry.
So you can get. What happens is we have these. If I were to lose weight, who would I betray? And there may be a piece of mother. Now, the rational part of you at this age knows that that's crazy, but it isn't when you're 14 years old. It isn't when. Look,
right.
We don't want to ever admit that we compete. Let's say with our parents, especially women competing with their mothers for daddy's attention and for.
Oh, totally. Oh my God, my mom and I was raised by my mom, so there's just the two of us. So definitely.
Okay, so let's just talk about it. There may be some unhealthy allegiances
Oh, yeah.
where if you got healthy, you would betray her.
Yeah.
We call them agreements. And of course in my book they're in there, is that we have these unhealthy allegiances and agreements, and they aren't rational. they're completely irrational, and realize that you can be having a very different experience than your mother.
Yeah.
You can be having a totally different experience than she's having. She's on her path having hers, you're on your path having yours, but we call them, on a deeper perspective, our soul contracts, right? We have these soul contracts where we are born into a certain family and we're working out something, and so she has hers and she drew you in, you have yours and you drew her in, and each of you is doing your particular dance. So as you get healthy and release, again, most of it's these patterns of thinking, but also patterns of behavior, you may in fact find yourself bumping up against some tribal agreements, some agreements with mom, some agreements with dad, some agreements with whomever, right?
I see that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's important to note, that there's
some kind of, it's not a it's me that felt that, like being up to her. It's always been like, oh, being as, pretty as this, as that.
So it's living up to her expectation, or at least what you perceive to be her expectation of you.
Oh, it's totally her expectation. I mean, every time on the phone is like, how are you doing with your weight? What have you been eating? What have you been exercising? Have you been continuing? She's so worried of me being in the U.S., back in the U.S. So it's just crazy. It drives me nuts.
And you know the expression projection. What she's projecting onto you has nothing to do with you, but it's her stuff.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean that a part of you doesn't match energy with her.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll have an opportunity here to get strategic. In your conversations with your mother, we're going to have a strategy so that you consciously take care of yourself in that relationship, so that you, in fact, don't wander down the slippery slope, right? Whether it's self-deprecating thoughts or defensive or whatever. So you actually have a strategy going in. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up because we only have a few more minutes. All right, let's do this. I have lots of. I'm still on the intake part of this, which is where we get the information gathered, and then from there we start to peel out aspects of it and work on them consciously. So the difference here is that we. Much of the behavior that you've developed in your life, specifically around food, is defensive. As we peel back these layers of defense and we come to understand the humanity, I can promise you one thing, that given the right perspective, everything you've ever done makes sense. Mm-hmm. The challenge is, and because you've done some of these things, they are patterns, right? From and the beauty is, a little bit of this, so I really don't have to explain all of it, is patterns of thinking are neural pathways. So they are our default mechanism. Much like when you turn your computer on, it goes to certain settings. Well, so do you. So when literally something comes up in the world, you have a default setting, and the process of observing your experience and making choices, consciousness, is to create a space in between the stimulus and your response. That's where the freedom to choose lies, in the space between stimulus and response. So consciousness, compassion, we call it the conscious, compassionate observer, is what we practice, and we just find opportunities to practice it. We can go into any situation and go, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go to the market and practice observing my experience. How does it feel to be me? You can take and forgive me for not having the accent, but I'm calling her Aurélie. You can take Aurélie for a walk, and just take her for a walk and get in touch with that aspect of your experience and really tap into how does it feel to be her in the world. Because what we need to do is actually integrate her back into your psyche in a healthy way. Because
that's brilliant. You really.
Right now, she's rejected and denied. She's in the back room and she's screaming, and it keeps coming out in behavior. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Okay. Great first session. There's going to be, I'll send you an email. I will give you in the email some little things to do. They'll be similar to this, and there'll be things for you to consider. So just pick one or two to do. Don't try to do everything. If that aspect of you that wants to be the doer and have it fixed tomorrow, really resist that. Step into this with a sense of putting your toe in the water before you jump. Just ease into it bit by bit, because I'll be honest with you, even if you think you're handling it all, It's so much. It comes in so fast. And that's the thing about coaching, which is different from the way other people take my process, is that one-on-one, we're going to get right to the heart of the matter, literally the heart of the matter, very quickly. So I'm going to send you an email. It'll have just what happened in the session, like it'll give you back all your answers to each of the questions I asked you for you to look at, and it'll give you some suggestions for you to consider. And I only want you to pick a couple.
Very cool.
I
Awesome.
will see you next. Hey, Lilou, it's Freeman. I wanted to connect with you and give you some homework for this week. You have my book, Weight Release: A Liberating Journey, and what I'd love for you to do, if you can, read the first 66 pages. Chapter 8, which is up to 66, which is those last 10 pages of the first 66, is all about practicing the conscious compassion observer. But there's also parts about the intention process. I know you know intention, but there's one distinction that's really important in my work, and that's that intention isn't driven by an external result. It's driven by a quality of experience that we want to have. How do we want to be in a relationship with food? How do we want to, be in our lives from a quality of experience level? It explains that in the book, and we'll talk more about that as well. So the two parts are set an intention for our work together. That's the first part. And the second is practice compassion. And mainly self-compassion, but it's a little bit of both. I have you go back and forth, and it's in the notes that I sent you. So those are the two parts. You did an amazing job in the first session, really amazing. And it's interesting because that part of you where you split from yourself, where your world as you understand it became it changed at the point of divorce, or your parents' divorce, and the world as you knew it was gone, and you had to make sense of the new world, and you had to make very quick decisions from a very defensive, very wounded place. So the misperceptions, the idea that you were doing something wrong, that you said you took it personally, and all of that, we can peel that away. But it isn't important that we travel back in time precisely. It isn't like we have to go back to the scene of the crime, as it were. Not necessarily. We relate to that experience, and actually you experience it now in the form of feeling too vulnerable, feeling shy, feeling like it's not okay for you to have feelings or needs or whatever. And that's where it comes out. But again, compassion allows you to see clearly. Judgment, which is defensive thinking, clouds your perception. So those are the pieces. So the two things for the week are getting a clear intention, because that's going to be a guiding and directing principle that helps you stay on track. And the second piece is the compassion piece. So again, that's in the notes and in the book up to page 66. That'll get you buzzing along.